The rank ceremony at Valdris Hunter Institute was broadcast on every screen in the city. 2,200 hunters, trainees, and contracted officers packed the main hall. The leaderboard glowed above the stage, and Lyra Vane, candidate rank, the most watched face in the Institute's current class, walked to the podium and announced, with the composed smile always wore when she wanted the cameras to catch her best angle, that she was dissolving her partnership bond, effective immediately. Cal Sorn stood in the third row and heard his name used the way people use the name of furniture when they're redecorating. Kale's been wonderful, she said, genuinely. But I need a partner who can take me where I need to go. She turned toward the front row. One combat sovereign, dress rank, for 3 consecutive cycles, arms crossed, jaw set, gave the hall a single nod, as though the decision had already been filed and he was merely acknowledging the paperwork. Support furniture, he had called Kale 2 weeks earlier, in a corridor interview that someone had the decency to only half-clip for broadcast. The half they clipped was enough. The bond dissolved. The registry pinged Kale's license. Partnership status, void. Floor access above level 10, suspended pending solo re-registration. Stipend, cancelled. Co-registration on contracts 7, 8, and 11 removed. 3 years of shared climbs, of holding Lyra's barrier when she pushed past her limit, carrying extraction loads when she burned through her sprint. Gone from his file in the time it took the system to process the dissolution. He stood there and didn't move until the applause died. Then, in the silence after, in the precise moment the hall began to murmur and shift, and the cameras panned to Lyra and Dren shaking hands at the podium. Something happened in Kale's chest that had nothing to do with grief. System, dormant class detected. Activation condition, met partnership bond dissolved by external party after 3,847 hours of verified, reciprocated support. Anchor token conversion complete. Tokens banked. 3847. Class unlocked. Devotion absolute classification. Unranked above partnership, the anchor sovereign. Note: all support type abilities are hereby inverted. Free skill logged in service of another is now logged in service of you. Kale read the message once. Then he walked to the registry desk at the back of the hall, filled out a solo re-registration form, and handed it to the officer without a word. The solo registration desk assigned him floor 10 access by default. Standard for a dissolved bond D-tier support anchor. The officer had the grace not to comment on it. Kale went to floor 10 the next morning, cleared it in 9 minutes. The system logged it, calculated, and bumped his provisional access to floor 20. He went to floor 20 the same afternoon. The anchor tokens worked exactly as the system described, methodically, without drama, without the flash that combat sovereigns performed for the leaderboard cameras. Every barrier skill he had ever used to absorb a blow for Lyra now absorbed a blow for him, at full sovereign multiplier. Every heal he had spent on a party now cycled into a passive regeneration field anchored to his own body. The carry load skill, the one Dren Vool had specifically mocked in that corridor interview, the one that let Kale haul unconscious teammates out of collapsed zones, expressed itself now as a gravity-class physical amplifier that made every movement he made precise, weighted, and exactly as forceful as he chose. He cleared floor 20 in 22 minutes. Alone. The registry auto-updated. The leaderboard ticked. He went home, ate, slept, and came back to floor 30 at 7 in the morning. Press rank parties cleared floor 30 in an average of 2 hours. The current record was held by Dren Vool's former unit at 1 hour and 44 minutes set during a contract run with a full party of 6. Kale cleared it in 38 minutes, by himself. The system flagged the result for manual review, because its automated verification protocol had no precedent for a solo D-tier support anchor. Wasting that time on floor 30, manual review confirmed it. The flag stayed on the file. The leaderboard updated anyway. No one called him. No broadcast ran a segment. The Institute administration sent an automated courtesy notice that his floor access was being re-evaluated. He didn't reply to that either. By the end of the first week, he was on floor 35. By the end of the second, floor 45. The leaderboard kept ticking upward with a classification label it had never generated before. Unranked above partnership. And because the column had never existed, the automated display system slotted it at the top by default. above the S-rank entries, caused a low-grade administrative panic that lasted approximately 4 days before someone in the registry simply left it where the system put. Tier 1 contract offers started arriving at his solo registration file on day 19. Not co-registration. Sole contracts, his name, his license, terms. He accepted too. He completed them both ahead of schedule, alone, without incident. The contract officers who debriefed him afterward noted in their reports that he was quiet, answered questions directly, and seemed entirely unbothered. He was thinking about floor 50. He reached it on day 21, cleared it in 51 minutes. The record, previously, had been held by a 6-person's S-rank unit. The flag on his file now had 3 additional manual review stamps and a note from the Institute's head of classification that simply read, applicable tier, leave as is. He left it as is. He accepted a 3rd sole contract. He kept going. Lyra Vane and Drenval hit floor 67 on day 29. It was not a clean run. The floor's encounter architecture required constant positional communication between a combat lead and a support anchor. The kind of communication that builds over months of shared runs, of learning each other's rhythms, of the support anchor knowing instinctively when the combat lead was at 80% and adjusting before the request was made. Drenval had never operated with a dedicated support anchor in his career. He had always cleared his own path. He did not adjust. Lyra adjusted. She had 3 years of practice adjusting. But adjusting for Dren was different from adjusting for someone who had spent 3 years, learning to make himself invisible so her best qualities could show. Dren did not make himself invisible. Dren occupied the space. Their coordination failed at the 67th floor's 3rd encounter zone. The registry logged a critical failure event. Partnership bond fractured, not dissolved, technically, but flagged for instability review, which was the registry's careful way of saying it was close. That evening, Kale received a message. "Hey, just checking in. Hope you're doing okay." He read it. He set his phone face down on the desk. He opened the contract briefing file for the following morning, read it through, marked his approach notes, and went to sleep. She messaged again 2 days later, then a 3rd time. The messages escalated by small increments. From checking in to I heard you've been doing well. Tour. I'd actually love to catch up if you have a moment. He read each one. He didn't reply to any of them. On day 34, she showed up at the solo registration desk on the Institute's 3rd floor. He was mid-briefing with a Tier 1 contract officer, a compact woman named Rael who had the brisk, professional manner of someone who had processed enough contracts to have stopped being surprised by anything. They were going over extraction protocols for a Floor 72 sole contract, which Rael had quietly mentioned was the first Floor 72 sole contract the Institute had issued in 11 years. Kale was asking a clarifying question about the secondary access point when he saw Lyra come through the door. In his peripheral vision, she stopped when she saw him. She stood near the entrance, hands clasped, teeth waiting with the careful patience of someone who has prepared what they are going to say and is holding it ready. He finished his question. Rael answered. He asked one more. She answered that too. He thanked her, signed the contract confirmation, and slid it across the desk. Rael processed it, handed him his copy, and wished him a clean run. He tucked the contract copy into his jacket, and walked toward the elevator. Kale. He stopped. He turned, not quickly, not slowly, just turned the way he always did, with that particular quality of attention that had nothing urgent in it. She looked the same. She always looked the same, composed, camera ready, the kind of beautiful that had always made him feel like standing straighter, just to be worth looking at from her direction. She had her hands still clasped. She was watching him with an expression he had not seen on her before. Not quite regret, not quite plea, somewhere between the two, which was, he supposed, exactly where she had always lived. Never quite committing to either. "I'm on a contract," he said. He pressed the elevator button. The doors opened. He stepped in. She said his name again, softer this time, and the doors closed. The leaderboard on the wall behind her, the main display, the one that ran floor to ceiling on the registration hall's east wall, showed the top classification at the number 1 slot. Kale Sorn unranked, above partnership. The anchor sovereign solo contracts active. Floor access. Unrestricted below it in the standard S rank column. Drenval's name sat at the top of the conventional rankings. Floor 67 stalled. Partnership status flagged for instability review. Last contract completion date. 11 days ago. Lyra stood in the registration hall for a long moment. The contract officer at the desk, Rael, was already pulling up the next file. The automated leaderboard cycled through its display, unhurried. Kale's elevator reached floor B1 where the solo contract deployment bay was. He walked to his assigned gate, presented his confirmation, and was cleared through. He had a floor to clear.